Okay. Let's get this party started. What's up?
Like, no, you're fine. I just like, I live for it's a big part of Texas. So is that the panhandle or?
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Poets and Pints number 89. We're planning something big for number 100, so keep your eyes out because it's going to be amazing. First and foremost, I really should have started doing this years ago, but make sure your phones are off. Not off, like we're not monsters, but silent. Again, my name is Tony Plocido. I am a host of this show, curator of this show. I'm also a member and board member of Cracked Walnut, which is part of the League of Minnesota Poets, and so is this show. So we welcome you here. And tonight we're going to celebrate Annette Gagliardi's new book, A Short Amount of Viability. But she's got some openers. So I'm not going to drag this out for too long. I'm just going to bring them up on stage here. And I did not print off. It is a flip phone. Because I'm a baller. Smartphone flip phone. Yes. Everybody be jealous. Okay. Okay. All right. That's. Do you want me to say the Kozy part? Okay. Kozy Lanik is a high school social studies teacher in Minneapolis. She's a co-creator and co-editor of Upon Waking, which is here for sale. Buy it. 58 Voices Speaking Up from the Shadows of Abuse poetry anthology published in April of 2019. Laura is the current vice president of the Mississippi Valley Poets Society, and she's working on a chapbook to be published in 2023 in conjunction with the artist Mary Schmidt. Her writing has recently been published in the Minnesota Women's Press book Women, The Femme, NPR Classical Radio, and Origami Kindness Anthology 2020, Her Words, and many other places. You can find and support Laura Kozy Lanik's work on buymeacoffee.com/Laura Kozy Lanik. Everybody, please put your hands together for Laura Lanik.
Tony. All right, everybody, thanks very much for coming out today. We're here to celebrate this brand new book by Annette Gagliardi. And I'm going to start with reading a poem out of here first. The one thing I do want to say is I really appreciate all of you for coming out tonight, since Joy Harjo and Lady Long Soldier are here at exactly 7:30 down the road, which, you know, would be pretty cool to see, but I really do appreciate you coming out to see me, Nancy, and Annette. So, The World is a Grave by Annette Gagliardi. It was Jude Nutter who wrote, "The world is a grave with all its exits barred," and I wondered how she knew at such a young age the vagaries of existence, the desolation and destruction. I wondered how she knew the cost of living a life that seems daily like a death. Our contrite confessions aside, there must be more that allows us to soar above our mundane toil than this coiled, curling crypt. I wondered how anyone ever knew this, and why more of us are not scarred or scared shitless. How do we carry on surrounded by this gilded gyre, its din of clutching beetles and maggots running rampant in the darkness, spilling disease and unrest, famine and fear? This world that takes from, wants from, needs, siphoning the soul 1 ounce at a time, hollowing out until only a shell is left, a single carapace as reminder of what might have been. I remember a family gathering, hugging and mugging with cousins and siblings, reminiscing and celebrating aunties and uncles, yet amid the laughter, feeling so lonely, so very alone, that I had to hold myself tightly in check to keep from stepping out. I had to stop myself from running down the highway. I had to focus on not screaming, "This world is a grave!" And I understood there are no exits. I'm going to read a little bit of my work, a little bit of Annette's work, and a little bit of our shared work here tonight. So this one is called A Silent Interaction. My grandpa told me about a man he met during World War II, a man who spoke a different language, who practiced a different religion, who lived in a concentration camp until it was liberated by American soldiers. My grandpa told me this man changed his life, and in these last 50 years, not a day goes by that he doesn't think about him. Even though he never knew his name, he never forgot him. My grandpa told me he started smoking when he enlisted in the Army Air Force the day after Pearl Harbor was bombed. He put his Army-issued cigarettes in his shirt pocket and carried them everywhere. My grandpa told me towards the end of the war, in April 1945, he walked through a liberated concentration camp in Germany. He couldn't remember which one. There, he noticed an emaciated man lying on the cold, hard ground, too weak to get up and walk out of camp with the others. This man reached out his hand, and my father gave him the cigarette he was smoking. My grandfather gave him the cigarette he was smoking. My grandpa told me he helped the man smoke the cigarette. He held it to his mouth, and he puffed once, then twice. The man smiled, and my grandpa smiled too. His dull eyes lit up with a spark before he passed from this world into the next. My grandpa told me of the silent interaction between 2 men at the end of the war, and I never forgot the simple act of kindness and how it has created a ripple that has lasted for generations. Thank you. So that's about my grandpa. This is about my grandmother. So the poems that we're reading tonight are really focused on caregiving, death, dying, grief, healing. And so this one's about my grandma. She grew an abundance of purple clematises and red radishes. Once picked, the small red globes sat in a glass jar filled with cold water in the refrigerator. They found a small spot on her lung, and it grew, eating her bones from the inside out. She left slowly, in fragments. Her eyes dimmed, bones became brittle, disease hollowed her out. An early frost arrived as she left. At the funeral, someone said, "I look just like her." What I carry. In my head, I carry people's voices, strangers I've never met who influence how I think. On my back, I carry the weight of abuse, experiences of fighting in World War II, working long hours for little pay and a right to be heard and treated equally. In my gut, I carry miscarriages, many babies who were born, the grief of a family who has died of heart attacks, Alzheimer's, and lung cancer. In my bones, I carry the fearful crossing of the Atlantic Ocean, memories of the old country I've never visited. In my heart, I carry the ashes of loved ones who have moved on and watch over me. Even though you cannot see how much I am carrying, I carry you with me. Thank you. All right, this It's called Wisdom. Winds whistle, cottonwoods creak. The train blows its horn and the owl speaks. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo. Owl is invisible in the night sky, camouflaged in the forest. She's close enough to know where I sit on the steps in the dark. My broken arm in a sling, tears falling into grief. She has come tonight to lament with me the loss of life, the loss of another day. Owl brings me a message from my ancestors. There is great wisdom in this moment. All right, this one's called Grief of History. I walk the Dakota foot trails high on the limestone bluffs overlooking the Mississippi River. I reside on Dakota land where Little Crow and his people lived and loved in their village before they were forced further south onto a reservation. Indian agents let them starve. Mostly women and children walked a forced exodus, imprisoned in their Eden and exiled from ancestral land. I hear the songs of their spirits as each foot falls on the path. I breathe in the grief of history and tell it to you so we don't forget. This one's called 1,000 Tears. I met God in the woods. We went for a walk, had a talk about the grief I carry inside. She told me to let go, open my heart, release my fears, forgive again today, forgive today and again tomorrow if I need to. With my bare hands, I dug a deep hole. I buried my grief, shed 1,000 tears, watered a tiny seed, which then grew into a beautiful black walnut tree. And when I sit beneath it, I feel loved. I'm going to read another one of Annette's poems. This one is called Saline. Salt slid from the tear of a motherless child whose orange groves hung heavy with grief oozed from lips beyond repair. Edged the ears off the corn and slipped sideways to smile at the watermelon patch whose hatchlings strutted and stopped, pecked and pawed the ground in search of minerals that would induce a full measure of life to provide for and savor the nuances beyond their control. They would hug all children to themselves like a bee hugs a flower, gathering honey and shedding pollen from free-floating organisms whose only purpose in life is to provide the salt for grief-stricken tears. So in 2019, actually 2018, Annette and I spent a lot of time creating this book called Upon Waking. We met every day at Moon Palace and wrote and read and, I don't know, argued and cried, did all kinds of things. And out of that book came this anthology, and it was released in April 2019. So I'm going to read a few of my poems from here, and that also has poems in here, as well as many people from the Twin Cities area. This one is called Last Night I Dreamt I Was a Child. And I actually was listening to a Bruce Springsteen song and called My Father's House, and I heard this line and it just like spilled out of me. Last night I dreamt I was a child, chasing butterflies in a field of purple clover, my grandmother looking out the window across 200 acres of farm fields. Last night I dreamt I was a child, my parents still married, my mother smiling at her family as she passed the mashed potatoes and meatloaf, a story in the works. Last night I dreamt I was a child, riding the green tractor with my grandpa, milking the cows and feeding the teeny tiny newborn mice the sugar cookie I stole from the cupboard. Last night I dreamt I was a child with memories that were true, not some romantic version of how life used to be, but how it really was after he found me. Last night I dreamt I was a child, scared of the monster who lived at the end of the street. Everyone thought he was a nice man. They didn't know he was sexually abusing me. Last night I dreamt I was a child, afraid of my shadow, afraid to leave the safety of my house, knowing that evil lurked in the open and could find me anywhere. Last night I dreamt I was a child, running from my tormentor, trying to escape and hide, hoping he would not find me, but he always did. Last night I dreamt the same dream over and over and over again, night after fearful night, always running, always hiding, always trying to escape the fear, the pain, the man who lived at the end of the street. Always the same dream every night for years. Last night I dreamt the same dream, and in my nightmare, I fought back. I stood up for myself. I punched and kicked, and in the end, I killed him. Last night, I didn't dream. Finally. All right, so I'm working on a book with Mary Schmidt. Mary Schmidt is a local poet and artist, and it's going to be a series of poems about my body. And so this is the first My Body poem ever written that made it into this book, and so I'm going to read that. All right, let me just check my time here. My body. My body is a man's gadget, an electromagnet which attracts emotional debris with an orbit spinning out of control. My body has a black hole, consuming my heart and soul, deforming relationships with its gravitational pull. My body is a geometrically defined region with borders and boundaries where time and space converge, and anger is so strong that light and laughter cannot escape. My body has been torn in two by the damage men can do. It radiates heat but reflects no light, and it is black as dark as night. My body is a complex danger zone with yellow police tape that cautions the abuser and says, "User, beware." My body has been stripped down to a single essential truth. My body remembers what my mind wants to forget. My body is talking to your body and letting you know my body is mine to possess, not yours, and you won't abuse it anymore. Thank you. All right. I'm going to read another one of Annette's poems called Grief in the Sale. And I'm going to read a few short poems and then I'll be done, and I'm going to call up Nancy. So this one's called Grief in the Sale. Sunlight illuminates today, yet grief shades my way like the awning over a window. I watch your pain, the slow, quick unwinding of your life. It cuts deep, furrows in your brightness. Small glimpses of who you used to be emerge, recede, like dolphins in the sea. I watch the boats inch their way from the harbor and know you are on a similar vessel moving away, always away. You are meeting the horizon so very soon. No room for pity, only grief in your sail, along with the evening tide. All right, so I have a few very short poems. I did a project called the 100 Days Project, and I made some postcards out of many of my poems. And if you're interested in some of these, I have them for sale at the back. So this one's called Spirit Power. When you pass from this world into the next, you gain spirit powers. You can ride the great blue heron across the lake to enjoy the view. You can transform into a beautiful butterfly and float on the breath we each exhale. You can speak to us through the memories we hold close to our hearts. You can tiptoe into the dreams of a loved one to say, hello, I miss you. You can take our tears of sorrow, form them into a river of love the whole world can drink from. And as you glide into heaven on a cloud, I know someday I will see you again. Clay bowl. Dear one, I feel your loneliness. It is inside me too. Sometimes I am a clay bowl thrown into the wind with no one to catch me. I fall in fragments, break into a million pieces. We pick up our lives, superglue our separated selves together and continue on. It is what we must do. Dear one, you are never alone. I am with you. I will help you pick up the pieces and repair your clay bowl. This one's called Kinsuki. It's a Japanese art of repairing a clay bowl, any kind of bowl, porcelain bowl, with gold lacquer, or actually with gold. Kinsuki. I am restoring the broken parts of myself. For years, my scars and wounds were hidden. I thought I wasn't worthy, my imperfections unlovable, until I was cracked open. Light began to pour through as I mended and transformed and put my fractured self back together with gold. I am in the process of becoming a symbol of strength, beauty, and fragility, forging a new landscape on which to mold my truest self. Thank you. And lastly, just as a reminder, because I know many of us are caregivers in this room, and it's hard. It's really hard. And so you need to really take care of yourself, because if you're taking care of somebody else, you can't do it if you're not taking care of yourself first. So this poem is called How to Feed Yourself Love. Take a spoonful of worthiness. Look into the mirror. Tell yourself your life matters. Swallow a teaspoon of forgiveness. Offer yourself a slice of compassion for the choices you have made. Treat yourself to an extra dose of sunshine. Enjoy a cup of happiness while you drink in the moonlight. Thank your beautiful self for the gifts you bring to the world, and remember to feed yourself morsels of love every single day. Thank you. So, do you want to introduce Nancy,
Yeah.
and then I'll come right back up?
Yep.
Okay.
Let me do that. All right.
One more time for Laura Kozy Lanik. A few announcements while I'm tap dancing for time here. One thing is, I said we're part of the League of Minnesota Poets in Cracked Walnut. Cracked Walnut is just one of the local chapters of the League of Minnesota Poets. The other is Mississippi Valley Poets and Writers. And they are here in the Twin Cities as well. And Annette is the president, Laura's vice president. And I don't know who the rest of your board is, but they're available as well. So,
We meet in Richfield.
and they meet in Richfield, which is where I grew up. So if you like me, you'll probably like Richfield. And there is more information on these tents that I put on the table. I wanted to explain them because you might run into issues. So the big donate box at the top is specifically a PayPal donate. So you have to be logged into PayPal to use that QR code. The bottom ones go to the websites. So you can donate at the Cracked Walnut website if you don't want to log into PayPal on your phone. Okay, so all that was for this. Now I'm going to read a nice bio. Nancy Cook is a writer and teaching artist with a community orientation. The sole parent of an adopted child, Cook formerly worked full-time in academia, supervising students in community justice work. At the same time, she obtained her MFA in fiction, maintained an active writing practice, and taught creative writing in multiple venues from college campuses to prisons. Community engagement is central to her work, and she's founded the Witness Project in 2012, a program of creative writing initiatives in Minneapolis designed to enable creative work by underrepresented voices. Her own work explores the intersections of geography, history, and cultural heritage, and often touches questions of race, gender, and economic status. In addition to her writing and teaching, she serves as flash fiction editor for Callisto Gaia Press. Everybody, please put your hands together for Nancy Cook, who's also bringing back up Laura Kozy Lanik.
I don't know how I'm gonna do it. Oh my God, these bright lights. So Laura and I are gonna do a duet first, and right?
Yes.
That's what we're planning to do. So if I can find the poem.
So the mic moves pretty easy, so go ahead and just move it back and forth between you.
We're just gonna like get up real close and look like we're kissing. That's
Well, if you want it to be that kind of show.
It's up to you, Laura. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is a poem called Geraniums, one of Annette's poems. Wilted blooms drip red on my deck. I break them off at the stem without remorse and wipe their stain clean.
Each morning, a gentle hand with moistened towels wipes the caked blood off Mom's lips.
Dry, withered leaves are plucked and discarded from my plant in the same manner.
My mother's lungs are dying on the vine with no way to pluck off the dead members.
I slide the pot east, turning it to get the full sunlight. I use the water hose to drench the plant, flooding the pot to the brim.
What was done today? I ask the nurse as she slides the comb through Mom's hair and straightens her robe.
Then I go inside to admire the view from my window.
Her wheelchair is pushed to the window where the morning sun warms her and soothes.
So I'm just going to read a few things, and a couple of mine, two of mine, and a couple of Annette's. And I want to start with one that it might not be my favorite poem from the book, but every time I read it, it makes me, I don't know, it makes me smile. So I thought it'd be a good one to start with. It's called The Dried Bird's Nest. Only dried branches left and fluff. I thought of you with the first drop of exploding snow. Stars gaze from the Milky Way. Cosmic voyeurism, the cosmos kissing my reverie through the night sky. Its northern cold, a series of moons playing peekaboo, creating enough white light to play at night when we dared to stay out past bedtime. Can I be part of the electric dance that is you, a sluice of your juice, a part of your whole? Can I tick with the talking clock of your heart? One dried branch of memory left, and fluff. Only snow-filled fluff remains. I dreamed of you. Thank you for not waking me. So, let's see. So I picked one poem from Annette's that is, all of her poems are what she says here, short supply of viability, but this one is about loss and memory, I think, and I'll follow it up with one of my own about loss and memory. This one's called Distant Thunder. The morning is impressed with itself. Sun peeking over the horizon winks in another page in the book of this life. A barely escaped death is as good as it gets when everyone scratches the ground for goods. Life is a short struggle, sometimes shorter than we wish, hoping things happen for the best. At least that's what we are led to believe. Even if we are the earliest bird in the bunch, time hops ahead of us. Have we only wept for the days that scorched as they flew by? What of the time spent fulfilled? The banquets of spring and summer spent raiding feeders and flying freely. Even those days we've kept as roses in a bouquet are a slow simmer of stew served up with a fortune cookie that provides a lesson in some way, forecasting our fate, whether we acknowledge it early or late. We might end up like the lowly worm, circling our wagons underground, listening for distant thunder. So my poem is called Last October. Hope I can see. The last drive I took with my mother was on a late October day, a little after she'd risen from a 2-hour rest, when the sun had already dropped below its high mark. The afternoon was warm, and we drove through the valley, past open fields of aging grass, past clusters of trees with their long-necked trunks and heads of gold and scarlet, the trees still round and plump with summer leaves, but withering fast. The sun was like an aureoled moon, a murmur of yellow, and all around the pure air was reflecting every color. Mother was quiet, not in a mood for reminiscing, her head slightly tilted toward the window glass, almost too heavy, it seemed, for her shoulders to carry. At the top of Braymore Hill, I pulled into the overlook and rolled the window down. The grasshoppers had given way to caterpillars, so the only background music was played by the fluttering birches. Up ahead, the tops of trees, infused with light, entered the sky. On the lawn, off to our side, where the sun hovered at eye level, above a plain of topaz and rose, a painter had set up an easel and was daubing shades of the shifting sky, her brush racing to render the fullness of beauty before her subject dissolved in air. I could see Mother resisting her flagging eyelids, battling to stay awake, determined as she'd always been. She surprised me when she spoke. I always wanted to try painting, she said. I asked, really? Yes, it seems like magic. Look how she so easily portrays exactly what she sees. How does one begin? How can paints become the thing itself almost? I've always thought I'd like to learn. On any other day before, a year ago, 3 weeks past, I would have said and meant it, well, there's still time. But on this warm autumn afternoon, I simply said, I think I understand. I do, for landscapes daily desert us, and how I wish pastels now preserved my mother's cheek, her pale eyes in that fading hour. And now, I'd like to end with a couple of hopeful poems. So the first one is Annette, called Mirage. There is a certain sunlight in the Arctic that reflects and reveals other lands, cities, mountains, seas, each glistening mystically. We know them, and we do not. It sends us dreaming and yearning into the twilight, each image depleting as the day drinks the night, lapping up our hunger, no longer viable, until the diminishing light pinpricks that bright vanishing into the landscape of stunned darkness. Our dreams are chilled and lost, frozen in polar wind. And behold, starlight illuminates what sunlight did not. And then I'm just going to read one more thing that isn't actually a poem. I actually do more prose than poetry, and so I'm going to read a little excerpt from something that's a longer piece that's told in the voices of various residents of a residential living facility for the elderly, I guess. So this is from room 520. When I was a little girl, I had a book called How Big is Big? It had all these questions. How big is big? How tall is tall? How small is small? How long is long? How far is far? How fast is fast? It had lots of pictures. An elephant and a mouse, the Alps and an anthill, a man running, and a locomotive. Literal representations of relativity. I'm philosophical about such questions now. Once the universe seemed endless as I moved from the unremembered vastness of the womb to days of exploration in the backyard, to venturing down the street, where my street led to more streets, which led to more streets, which led to more streets and more streets than I could imagine. Seen through young eyes, the sky was full of possibilities. People and maybe unknown creatures walking in space, wandering among planets and stars, following a comet's tail. Once, time was in short supply, a tumbler of water for my constant thirst, always seemingly down to its last precious drops. Time was a step ahead, a leap forward, over the next ridge, within but just out of reach. I carried with me then only a few backward glances. It seems now like time is all I have. The load is heavier with memories, some misremembered, some disremembered. And the universe has shrunk, no longer as big as the world, nor as big as Iowa, as big as this town. Sometimes no larger than this room, no more to it than this body. Yet there is this window. The gray mist of cataracts can't completely dim the view. From this chair, here in this room, I can see where the divided tracks of the old B&O line meet to make a point somewhere up north. The 755's been by, leaving in its wake a red steam that burns into the flatness. Horizons made for thinking. What is possible is endless, and what is endless possible. Now watch me get down from here.
Success. One more time for Nancy Cook. So I am a really bad host. Why do I say that? Because I said the name of the book wrong. It is a short supply of viability, and I said vitality, so I apologize for that error, because I don't like to make that kind of error. Trying to find your bio, and I cannot.
You can do it.
Hey, I found it. All right. Okay. So, we've come to the point where we're going to have the guest of honor. Annette Gagliardi is a Minnesota writer, author, and teacher. A short supply of Viability, along with proper poems for ladies and a few naughty ones too, give you an idea of Gagliardi's range as a poet. She also has 2 children's books, also available over there. The three Betty Goats Griff and Resourceful Erica. This fall, Gagliardi launches her first young adult novel titled Ponderosa Pines. Gagliardi is a contributor and one of the 2 editors for the anthology Upon Waking, 58 Voices Speaking Out from the Shadows of Abuse. Annette also has poetry in a variety of online and in-print journals, magazines, and anthologies, and has won poetry awards in 3 states. She is passionate about chocolate, loves gardening, serving tea, and having chocolate tea in her garden. Visit her website at AnnetteGagliardi.com. And today's reading showcases a short supply of Viability which does not shy away from the difficult subject. Quite the contrary, it confronts universal aspects of the human condition, human decline, our need for care, our love of life, the joy, pain, and regret we feel as we witness failing health, the passing of loved ones, and more. Even as she buoys our spirits, reminding us, as William Cullen Bryant does, to live. If food is what you want, eat now. From the sea shifts. Ultimately, she embraces death as a lover, part of a natural order, reminding us in her poems that vita brevis est. Please put your hands together for Annette Gagliardi.
Find my way to the stage here.
Take your time.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Now that I'm up here, I can't see any of you.
That was the plan.
Tonight, we're talking about a short supply of Viability, and I really appreciate that you've all come. Thank you so very much for being here. This book was about 10 years in the making, and I feel like I won the lottery because I found a publisher, which is just really amazing. My parents died in 1998, within 3 months of each other, and my mother died on May 14th. Which coincidentally is the same day that Frank Sinatra died. And I contend that Frank heard Mom passed and he just couldn't live another day without her. So this poem's written for them. It's called Classic Sinatra. Frank died the same day Mom did, their essence mingling with the marrow of others, meeting their own demise. Sinatra might have been singing. Mom might have been humming along. The slaughterhouse barely opened, its barn red paint flaking in the sunlight, decay and deterioration running rampant among the bodies of those left behind. Rotting wood floors, no longer holding the necessary weight to carry on. Medications bulldoze and demolish any scant health left, bodies raised like aged sheds in abandoned fields, slow dance with dying. No longer trying to pilfer another long day, butchered and broken into mingled segments of backstory. I choose to think Mom and Frank sang and danced the night away in that old barn. There might have been dragonflies. The sun might have been shining. Geraniums is one of 2 poems in the book that are for 2 voices. I think that a lot of times when we are facing the care of somebody, we are of 2 minds. And I found that a lot in my caring for my parents and caring for my mother-in-law. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate my technical helper there. Anyway, so the other one is Wants and Wishes. So those 2 poems are something you might be interested in, a talk with yourself, as it were. When my mother passed away, one of the things that I got was her mother's ring, and I wear it on my hand. So this poem is called Mother's Ring. The diamonds are small, barely glints along the silver band's slim, simple smile, circling my ring finger, not the marrying finger, the one on my right hand. Dad was poor. Heck, we all were. But he always said, Only the best for your mother, spare no expense. Knowing that he could afford nothing, yet somehow getting her heart's desire every time. The tiny diamond chips set into the swaled cleaves signify 25 years wedded to tether. It became mine to remind me to love through the good and bad. They were married for 40 years before COPD took them within 3 months of each other. If that isn't love, I don't know what is. My father he had many jobs, but he was a farmer, and then he worked in the Black Hills gold mine for 10 years. Then he was the over the road trucker. So he did a number of jobs. But this poem is about the thing that started his lung disease, and that was working in the gold mine. It's called Hard as Stone. My father dug into the earth in the Black Hills gold mine, 2 stories underground. His way lit only by the light on his helmet. With a pickaxe and shovel, he dug, pressing his muscles into each striation of the ground, using the bundles of fibrous tissues on his back and legs that became layered, like the colored ribbons on an agate, becoming what he dug, what he hollowed out. The smooth, polished stone in shades of brown with mahogany, umber, and sienna ribbons following each other around the outside, and even though we cannot see them, they run through the center as well. What he dug became a cavern that grew over time with each stroke of the axe as it cleaved the rock, smooth yet hard, hard as granite, hard as the dark, deep down in the mine, hard as the days and nights he excavated the earth, digging and cutting the bedrock, creating ridges and valleys inside the world of stone. Hard as the life inside our mother planet, under her crusted mantle, with her breathing herself onto him and sighing as he tore away her flesh. Hard as it is to suffer patiently while something or someone digs you hollow. Thank you. Well, I didn't want to leave out my mother and father-in-law. My mother-in-law had Alzheimer's, and she lived with us for 3 months. And as she lost her memory, she would tell the same stories over and over. And this one was one of her favorites. His flowered past. She tells me how he looked back then. She with her red hair, white skin, just a girl in love, but still aware enough to know her family would not accept his inky Italian blood, would see him as too dark. Chuckling, she tells how she powdered him with flour before introducing him. His full black hair, and she so fair. His tall, muscular build, her so small. And the flour falling off his handsome features onto his shirt front. They told her, look elsewhere. He isn't the one. But he was. He always was. He held that build to the end, even as the cancer wasted him. Kept his muscular frame despite the chemo's slow spin, his mahogany skin smoothed, faded with the ash of illness. The streetcar rumbled every night past her corner, and he on it, just far enough away to stay out of the sight of the light of the street lamp. He kissed her, and she still remembers her heart racing when she and he hugged the darkness. She strokes his lush black hair, laughing. She tells the story again. Actually, that's one of my favorite stories too. A Short Supply of Viability is the title of the book, and there's actually a poem in here with that title, so let me read that one to you. I'm the trash can of detritus filling the hours of life, the taste of tedium. I'm your unmade bed. I'm the parked car idling in the winter, running engine using up gas going nowhere. I'm the chauffeur collecting dry cleaning, mail, medicine, hairstylist, groceries, mending, car repairs. I'm the housefrau gathering these essentials, rearranged once at home. They remain only moments, then dissipate like condensation in the morning sun. I tidy pieces of possibility, spending days one heartbeat at a time, suffusing seconds of existence with minutia, loading my life with trivialities, caring for those who need, until I am left wondering if this constant consideration will sustain. Will changing furniture or food provide the succor needed? Until I am left wondering why this treadmill continues to support us with viability in such short supply. Thank you. I have a friend who's been diagnosed with cancer of the liver, and that was 3 years ago. They gave him 4 months, and he's still with us. And praise God for that. But he and I have had a number of discussions about life and death. And I wrote this one for him after a discussion we had. It's called The Cost of a Limo. My friend was talking with his funeral representative, and he found out it will cost $2,000 for them to carry his body from the church to the graveyard, riding in the limo. He thinks a buddy could put him in the back of his '97 Ford pickup and transport him with time to spare and no cost to anyone. Who wants to take that $2,000 ride at the end of a life filled with more $1 million days than one can count? At the end of a life filled with chock full of not enough money for much of anything, yet quite enough money to survive this varied existence in all its costliness. Who doesn't yearn to live high in the hog, riding in the style and the back of a limo, yet what the cost? Do we save those high-minded moments for death's delivery? Do we waste our wanting, warm close to our chest all our lives, then enjoy the ride of our lives after our lives are over? Thank you. Something to think about, right? I vote for the '97 pickup myself. This one's a little more serious. It's about a friend who died of pancreatic cancer. She was the teacher that I taught with for my first class, and we taught together for her last class for years. We were together for a number of years. Anyway, she was the black starling. Like an oil spill left over after the hot summer rain, iridescent in the sunlight. Not yet afterlife, yet still after the last breath has flown the breast, past the point of no return. The corpse, scorched into concrete, sun-bleached and bare, lay like bones blanched on some back street. Flies hummed a vanishing tune, crows, baking in the bleachers sang Auld Lang Syne, rubbing shoulders like men, rubbing shoulders while waiting, like old men at a ball game. There was no glass in her thought, no transparency, yet she could not have been more clear, her mouth pressed against the window pane of death. No air was to be found there, no breath, no life left to live. Her harsh reality kissed the shore of leaving, shot at dawn, viability gone, executed amid the morning's mist, the crows and their song descending, ants amassed in the concrete crevasse beneath her, their funeral demolition long discharged. I could not see the desecration the ants had done, the starling just compressed to slack sheet of paper, to dark stain on sand, to shadow. The day full of clouds threatened a moist repast. Thunder rumbled, lightning illuminated the darkness, yet no rain came to relieve termination's hammer pounding, the oppressive weighing down, the incessant 9, 9, 9, removing the last extent of her exquisite existence. Thank you. won't leave you with, grief. Give you something, some small shimmer of hope, I hope. A single sparrow. Is it not part of God's design, this cosmic intention? Time is uncertain to men on earth, hidden in the moment between past and future. Yet the smallest space of redemption can pass in a flash. A sparrow shall not fall without our Father knowing. The meanest flower that blows offers thoughts that lie too deep for tears. When paths cross at a particular point in time and space, the butterfly's wings emerge, fill out, and grow as life's fluid is pumped into them. And coming into the mystery of it all, it is the thing itself. Without death, would we make any significant choices? Would we confront any limitations? When our body is buried, our ashes mix a new pattern with the sand and wind and water, our hearts flung into the void to become newly minted. What is the truer truth? You will find no remedy for the strength of love, nor the length of death. Yet, what would we do with immortality anyway? I'm going to give you one last one from this book, and I have another book I want to read a little bit from. This is called When I Die. Lift me up. Say my name. Fill your cup of time with memories. Sing my song, yet be free of sadness and despair. Don't go there for too long. See me in your children's children, in their tears and laughter. Then, after they are asleep, hold a memory of me you plan to keep. That's by Viability, ladies and gentlemen. We did not read all the poems in this book, so there's still a few. I also want to talk a little bit about proper poems for ladies and a few naughty ones too. I usually read a couple from this book. This is one that I did a couple of years ago for my cousins, and people keep asking me for it, so I did a second edition this year so that I would have something to sell for people. The one that people keep asking me about is Blue Jeans, and it's one of the ones I think are naughty, but I think, risque is running with scissors, so you be the judge. Blue Jeans. And I'll mention something after. Blue jeans. When I want to feel good, I wear my blue jeans. The jeans that caress my curves and cinch my waist. They slink over my hips, beneath my butt, and snug up against me, so there's no air between me and there. Like a denim skin I've been poured in. Then I pull on my boots, the ones that reach just below my knees, and geez, I feel like I'm ready to go to town to throw me a fit, then sit with the guys and gals at the dance, or step out on the floor and strut a tune or two with a tall someone who'll slide his hands over these jeans, who'll pull me to him while we dance, then take my hand and walk me out the door for more hands on my jeans, or in between my jeans and me. And there's only one man that can do that, and he's sitting right over there. He's my husband of 51 years, Tim Gagliardi. Yeah, 51. We always say, he always says 15 are the happiest years of our lives, and I say 10 for me. It's just a joke. Concert. She bent over, and her flowing skirt covered a backside as wide as a Sunday afternoon. The rhythm of the day, slow and lazy, reluctant to hurry, leisurely and lengthy, that skirt, full enough to gather up, with pockets so wise as to hide all kinds of comfort. "Sip some sweet tea and sit a spell," she said from behind the measure of her body. Then turning our way, serving up a sumptuous tray of delights. No sorry repast this, but an invite so welcome as to melt the butter in the kitchen crockery, so swollen with tenderness as to marinate hearts, like a ribeye roast going to church supper in its marinated juices. She was as mellow as the chubby thighs of a 1-year-old child, resolute as the arthritic fingers of a grandma done darning socks every night for 50 years. She hummed a tune and smiled her wide, slow summer breeze that put you at ease, while she sang that old spiritual you instantly recognized. The song was round as the yon virgin folks sing about on that long ago holy night. Mellow tones, full of emotion, longing, and love. Full-bodied notes that linger on the air until one is no longer aware of their own breathing. Until one is finally, fully fulfilled and thankful just to be alive. Thank you. I just have a couple more I'm going to read here. A couple of years ago, 9 years actually, my husband and I were happy to take care of our 2 grandsons who were born 21 days apart. We've been watching them for 9 years. And one of the things was they were hard to get to sleep. And I think about that now, and one of the things I was thinking as I was putting them to sleep was they will grow up to be men someday. And at the time it was Iran and Iraq war, so that influenced my writing of this. So when he can't sleep, it's a poem for Jack. He remembers his grandmother sitting next to him on the couch during nap time, his 2-year-old body restless and jumpy. She would yawn, a tremendous open lion's mouth yawn, and shake her mane of hair that fell around her shoulders. And he would wait for the roar that never came. Instead, her measured breath would flow out into the sigh of the breeze through the trees, or the swell of the ocean, the earth's inhalations, it seemed. Years later, in Iraq and Iran, as missiles whistled overhead, the roar of tankers and hard-scrabble footsteps loud in the night, he puts himself to sleep with the memory of her breathing. Thank you. So this book was written for all of the women of capacity in my life, and so I'm going to read that. The last poem in the book is called Woman of Capacity. She is a woman of capacity. There is much she wants to know. Her abilities are endless. Her flair for competence is sufficient to arouse suspicion. Give her the full measure of life, for she is up to the test. Her boundless intelligence is as keen as a rapier and bright enough to light the stars of heaven. She is a woman of capacity. There is much she wishes to do. She is a Jill of all trades. Her caliber has no match as efficient or vigorous. Give her the hard jobs no one wants, for her tools are of great might. Her prowess, endowed early and often, enables her to work at all hours of the day and night. She is a woman of capacity. There are places she yearns to go. She is a truth seeker. Her journeys explore the realities and profundities of existence. Give her the theories you find most sincere, for she will hold them up against the harsh light of reality and suffer the consequences. She is a woman of capacity. Her hunger fills her up to overflowing. She swells with its weight. There are volumes to exhume, to revel and delight in. Give her the entire degree of hardships and hindrances to champion. Its amplitude stretches her senses. They broadcast the world and serve to assuage her beast of craving. Thank you so very much for your attention. Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome.
One more time for Annette. All right, I have two quick announcements before we'll take a little break, and then we're going to do some open mic. First announcement, like I said earlier, that we're part of the League of Minnesota Poets, and the League of Minnesota Poets is putting on their fall conference from November 4th through the 6th up in Alexandria at the Arrowhead Resort, and it is a gorgeous resort. And if you want more information, or if you'd like to go, please come. It'll be great. I'll be there. Lots of people in this room will be there. There, like I said, there's a QR code there for the League of Minnesota Poets website. If you scan that, it'll take you right to their front page where all the details are. So please go. Second, because we are part of the League of Minnesota Poets, we are a nonprofit. We do live off of donations. So if you didn't donate on the table tents there, if you want to stick a little something in the box, that would be great. If you don't, it is a free show. There's no requirement. Otherwise, we'll see you in about 15 minutes. Oh, crap.
I got it. I'm here to support.
I don't believe it.
No, it's just like, I'm a slow writer, you know. Yeah, I did, yeah, I did.
Hi, kids.
I get tired.
How's everybody doing? Did you all buy Annette's book?
Yes.
All right, you're not allowed to leave unless you do. I don't know if anybody told you that. Okay, just kidding. Now we're gonna do some open mic. The rule, as always, is one poem, 2 minutes or less. We only got about 20, 25 minutes, so let's roll. Shalonda, give me a number 1 through 4. 4. That's Michael David.
So my wife just went to get another drink.
Okay,
Can I not go first?
you cannot go first.
Thank you.
That is the rule. Charlie Curry is 2. So we'll bring up Charlie.
I was digging around in my files looking for something else.
Did it hurt?
Yeah, it did, actually. What is it? I wrote that. But I did find one that I think, have any of you been to Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know about the coqui? Yeah, which is a little singing frog. They're barely visible. Matter of fact, anyway, so that's what this is about. In times that seem simpler to us who were not there, my grandmother wrote poems, made toys from wooden spools, hairpins, bits of cloth and string. In places that seem simpler to us who are not there, people listen to, look for small frogs singing bird-like songs. Listening is peace, seeing is good fortune. And here, a ragtag collection, some bits and pieces to weigh with your imagination against the hurry up and as is. Lifting the lid is to see, bring your own good song.
Michael,
Hey, that's me.
You're up.
All right. Always a thing, I'm short.
well, pull it down.
I got it. Hey, everybody.
That's why I like that mic stand. You can just.
That's right.
2022 technology is amazing.
1822.
All right, this one is called Dominoes. Sitting at the dining room table one Friday evening when all of a sudden I start to notice my breathing, my temperature increasing, my heart quickly beating, I am starting to panic for no apparent reason. As I look down at the dominoes lined up before me, ordered just so, all the colors in a row. Ready for my next move, it all becomes a little blurry. And I feel like I should hurry right out of the door, or at least away from the table, so my friends do not see me like this. Because thus far, I have only shown them the backs of my dominoes so that they can't see what's really going on. From their perspective, my next move is thought out and my pips are in order. They don't see my panic disorder, the cortisol clouding my vision and making me want to run. Instead, I politely excuse myself to the bathroom, being careful to not rattle the table and make my dominoes fall for all of my friends to see.
Next up is Terry. There you are. All the way to the stage. All the way to the stage. That way we get up here faster.
I got a last name, you know.
False! Terry False!
Thanks to Annette and thanks to all the other readers. When Charlie was talking about the singing frog, that reminded me of the Looney Tunes cartoon with the singing frog. So I do experimental poetry, for lack of a better word. Action prosaic and vengeful. Nothing to do but sit and wait. Flowers on the curtain wall paint the blue-eyed script of your dream demise. Aristotle cannot help you. He racks and flails and wrote action mask. Yellow intestines looking toward the sun. Plant life growing thicker by the minute, until every political journalist walks newsworthy next to nothing. And the Mudcoin library screams with vowel throats in the blare of blood forest conceit, a strange exasperation hue of turquoise, but you know that you'll be on the commute again tomorrow. The parent civil rock gods haven't got a plan, and you wouldn't know it if you saw it.
Nick Thiessen. All in stage. All in stage.
Hello, everyone. This,
That's a new book.
this is a new book, yeah. This poem is not, well, it's not spoken its name to me yet, so I don't know it yet, but here we go. The music of your laughter is your freedom singing you. It's the sister song to the one you sang at your birth. Sometimes these sisters swap places, and when they do, time moves anew, backward in its spiral of surrender. The intricate symphony of your stilled tongue and the composed threadbare lines of your rent exhale herald the appearance of your knowing underneath it all, you in the wilderness. Breathing in the out-breath of the trees, breathing out their in-breath. Nothing more to be said except all the movements of your free-form body in a world sculpting its own becoming. Your hammer and chisel laid down now, bowing to the grace of your unfettered hands. This imminent, intimate presence imagines outward from a boundless interior and receives the shapings of the participatory world as moldings of a patiently awaiting mulled essence. To live in creation is to ascend to the laughter of tears and the weeping of laughter. To floridly collapse the until now necessary built against muscle that walked for you and walked with the bones of your original birth. It's your creative life that's creating you, even now, just as it's always been. You've always known this, though safety has been a relentless hero, triumphing again and again over the great unknown. But your present return has gifted this hero a new tonic for its parched being, the wellspring called rest, from which all newness for all time has been birthed. Even your patience has laid down its stilted head, existing now with no shadow of attempt, dwelling only as pure allowance. The freight of your momentous life unhitched from the manufactured engine of compliance to your unawareness, now borne onward by its own free breath, wending through the living landscapes of homeness.
What I got from that was all the movements. So, use it, don't use it. All right, I'm gonna read one, since there were no other people on the list.
Yes.
And I think microphones are bullshit. All right. This is, so we've been celebrating poets this evening, so now I'm gonna read my poem that makes fun of poets. It's called I Don't Write Poetry Anymore. I don't write poetry anymore. I don't feel the need to speak to you in the word of the day type vernacular. It's spectacular the way poets feel the need to bleed before you. They have a hit list of bliss or piss depending solely on their level of pot, or whether or not it's plus or minus 10:30 p.m. I can't stand how they condemn things from their position on the stage, sometimes directing their rage at their peers. It appears as though they're having fun, a little tongue-in-cheek speak to make your knees go weak. All these poets are just trying to get laid. And if you had paid attention, you'd have realized their descension into iniquity. No, these big words don't work for me. I take time to craft for the small mind, for the dumb kinds. I speak about society and sex and I speak about society and sex and politics and breasts, and I won't rest until I've screamed at least twice. Now, isn't that nice? Wouldn't you pay twice the no cover just to discover more of me? Because this poet is free, at least on the weekends. Well, it depends on my friends or what I have to spend. I go where the booze is free. I go where people want me. I go where if they taunt me, I can turn around and pee on their parade. Well, I think my point has been made. Poetry sucks, and you're stuck here for the rest of the night. And if you knew it was right, you'd walk out that door. At least out there, people are boring. Thank you. Would anybody else like to read? Jolanda? No? No? Okay. No, peer pressure. Micah? Do it. Do it.
I gotta find something.
Michael Larson. Everybody. Put your hands together until she finds a poem. You don't have to do that. Oh no, you have to do a poem. They don't have to clap until you find one. What did you say? I'll have a short one. This is the shortest one in the book. So here we are. It's called. Oh, it's sad. This is okay. I might be too weak for relationships. There's too much honesty requested, but not really wanted. With my if then that mind, I always perform poorly. However, solitude breeds sadness, it brings questions. She is not the answer to my questions. She is the exclamation in my silence. Woo.
Okay, so I wrote a series of Minnesota poems when I first moved up here. And so I moved up from Texas, and I don't know if y'all followed the story, but there was a young black man who was living in an apartment complex in Texas, and a police officer entered the wrong apartment and shot him in his own home. And so this is dedicated to him. It's called Complex for Bob and Jean. When I started a job at a 500-unit apartment complex just outside of Minneapolis, I was afraid. I had to carry so many keys. It would be so easy to make mistakes, especially during a full renovation. But as I walked the halls, I could imagine opening the wrong door, apologetically bumbling, "Sorry, I thought it was a 7 and not a 1 on this note." That's how a technical mistake should end, with an apology, with "I'm so sorry. My mistake. Please enjoy your afternoon." But I cannot imagine opening the wrong door and taking a life. But a white woman with a badge had just been convicted and charged of this very thing. And I could not stop thinking of Bob and Jean as I saw the children outside the complex waiting for the bus every morning, often in the snow, some I knew by name. I wondered how many mothers in our building were scared for their children out there, not just the temp and the wind chill, but the blinding white.
Thank you. Anybody else want to go?
Start the list over.
Okay, well, then we're going to put an end to this show. So first, I want a round of applause for Laura Kozy Lanik, Nancy Cook, and our guest of honor this evening, Annette Gagliardi. And thank you all for coming. Next month, we have another book release for a person named Laura Robinson. Opening for her will be Lizacia Wild, as well as Luna Ray. I don't remember the last name. Sorry, my memory sucks. But so please come back for another book release, and then in December we have another just normal show where we just put on 4 poets. So thank you so much for coming. Next month is our 90th show. All right, and my name is Tony Plocido, and I'll see you on the 21st of November. No, that's not right. November. Laura's checking for me. I'm a really good host.
The 3rd, right? 16th.
The 16th of November. So be here, right here, Sisyphus Brewery. By the way, Sisyphus Brewery, which they're amazing. It's not worth applauding because nobody's in here that works here. But I will say, please put all of your dishes in those tubs right there on the bar so that they don't have to work so hard to clean up after us. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. I really appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you all next month. Thank you. Bye.